All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Nicole Safely with I Am Fierce, and I am super excited to do our second in this series that we're calling Success Leaves Clues. I'm joined by Jardena London, my friend and amazing entrepreneur, this morning to talk a little bit about souls at work and women in leadership, women in entrepreneurship. And, the notion here really is if others can do it, so can we. And I do believe success leaves clues. The one thing that I know is I have built a network of some of the most amazing women in industry, in business, and at home. I mean, not everybody works outside the home, and we're still leaders and growing amazing humans. So I welcome all of you in to just grab a piece of paper, get a pen, get your coffee, whatever you need this morning, and join us as we kind of pick Jardena's brain on where she's been. And this has been a 5-year journey as far as how long have you been building your business, Jardena?
Oh, more than 5 years, 30 years.
30 years. Your
Uh,
own personal,
25,
like
25 years.
25. Okay,
Long
awesome.
time. Yeah.
Yes, here we
Besides
go.
all of my little businesses that I had since I was a kid, because I'm a serial entrepreneur.
At least you're not a serial killer. That's what
No,
we joke
I
in
left
our
that.
house. Like my son the other day, he's 23, by the way. Maybe this is a failure of parenthood or great that he wants to be at home, but I go in his room and there's a box of cereal in his room. I'm like, why? You're like 5 feet from the kitchen. So serial entrepreneurs, not serial killers. We get to do good stuff today. You guys, I'll just tell you a little bit about Jardena before we dive in, if that suits, because I think you'll want to know her history. That's the other thing. I always like to know where people came from. And Jardena is a business transformation consultant. She's an author. Oh, I have her book.
Oh, you have to get the new, I have to give you the
Oh,
new
it's
one,
purple, isn't
Nicole.
it? Already, yeah.
Look, you need the new
I
cover.
need the new one. So I
Yeah.
was an early adopter.
I know, I see.
Yeah, but I do want to get the new one.
I'll send it to
Um,
you.
Thank you. She's a keynote speaker, and she's the founder of Souls at Work. You guys dig into that. That title alone is just really meaty. And that is all focused on leading a movement to create workplaces that nourish our souls and exude positive energy. Like, who doesn't want to be a part of that? In her book, A Leader, Cultivating Transformation, The Leader's Guide to Connecting the Soulful and the Practical. She focuses on, souls at work. And this has been described as the book you buy and carry around with you everywhere. And the reason is, guys, when you dive into this, these chapters are meaty, but then there's like journaling exercises. So Julie, you were talking about this earlier, like it's not just about knowing what to do, but it's the application. And so, you can use this. It's hard to be a leader in the world today. And we'll get into that. And kind of a male dominated, we need to power through everything when you want to change. And we're in a time of transformation, I think, in our society. And this is the exact right time to discuss that. Jardena's mission is to help organizations create soulful, productive, and fun workplace environments that support organizational cultural change together with improving financial results. Like, that sells it in and of itself. Her work spans both nationally and globally to consult mid-sized to Fortune 50 companies on enterprise business agility with heart. And that's really where the connection for Jardena and I came, was through enterprise business agility. Her background is really diverse. She's been a programmer, she's been in project management, and has worked in launching multiple startups. She's just got a really dynamic lens through which she views the challenges that organization faces and helps them to reach productivity goals and create more of a positive, healthier workplace environment. Her most recent successes have been transforming a large legacy organization, God bless you, into a modern workplace with breakout results. And she does speak at lots of corporate events and stages worldwide on the positive effects of organizational transformation. Jardena has served as the co-founder and CEO of Rosetta Technology Group since 1997. And when we get done, I'll post some links so you guys can connect with her. Jardena, thanks so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Ah, I love reading your bio. Like, those things inspire me. And I just really want to dive in. I've got some kind of, if I could sit at the table with an entrepreneur, what would I ask her? I want to get into some of that. And then I'd love to talk a little bit more about what you see in, in the modern workplace, what you're doing to transform, and really where the soul comes in. So as we get started, why did you decide to start your own business? You were in corporate America. You were doing amazing things. What drove you to do this?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of my background. So I really did want to be part of corporate America because I just thought, wow, that's so amazing. So I got a job at AT&T when I was just out of college. And on my very, very, very literal first day, they announced layoffs.
Ah,
Now
nice.
they didn't lay me off. They said, we're not going to lay you off because you don't make enough money for us to care about you. Or we don't pay you enough, they said. And I said, you don't pay me enough. And then they didn't lay me off. But that really shaped my view of what I thought corporate was going to be like.
Yeah.
And the secure, people say it's much more secure, but it really, that broke that cracked that right open for me. So a
Yeah.
year later, I left and became a consultant with a guy I was dating and his friend. But that, yeah, so I did that for a few years and then went off on my own. But really, just having the confidence to not be part of corporate was on my
Mhm.
very, very first day in the real world when that was shattered for me.
Yeah. It's when you pull back the veil, it may take the first day, it may be the first 5 years. My husband just moved into leadership and, has been a developer. He moved into leadership about 3 months ago and he's
Mhm.
like already dismayed. He's like, I have no power, like it's not what I thought it would be. I'm like, welcome to our world. And that's the
Yeah,
fight. It's like, I can change that. And, you're making strides certainly in doing that if it's just one company at a time. Would love to see that blossom. And I hope you'll share where you're going with RosettaAgile. I know you had some big visions. Let me ask you
absolutely.
this. What advice would you give to someone just starting out in business, wanting either contemplating it or as you get started? What is that sage advice you would share?
There's a couple of things I would want to share. So one is just about confidence, because the
Mhm.
most of the people I talk to that want to start a company, they just don't feel like they're good enough or they can do it, or they say like, I don't want to do the admin. I mean, you can hire someone to do the admin. It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. But I think, even after I started my company, years later, I felt like, well, I want someone to develop me and discover me. I want someone to tell me what my value is. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest piece of advice, the biggest aha for me, and it's like late in life, this is recent, but I wish I knew it when I was younger,
Yeah.
is no one can tell you what your value is. So
Yes.
the way I discovered that is I had people who thought I was super valuable for reasons that I wasn't interested in.
Oh.
And then I realized no one knows my value like I do.
Hmm.
And no one wants the same value from me that I do.
Yeah.
So my biggest piece of advice is stop looking to be discovered or developed. Like I was looking for someone to discover me, almost like a movie
Yeah.
star, only not.
And give you
Uh,
permission to stand out, right? Give you
yeah,
somehow. Yes. Yeah.
and no one can give that to you except
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I was 50 before I learned that, but I hope that your viewers here will learn that much sooner.
Well, I think that's a lot, like we were talking about the transformational leadership, that's a lot of it is learning, what are my saboteurs, those voices that tell me I need approval from other people? How
Yeah.
do I step through that? And I don't think you ever completely get out of it, right? That voice is there, but you learn how to sit with it and push, put it aside and move forward confidently.
Mhm.
That is a big thing. And I just turned 51, Jardena, and I'm just learning this too,
We're the
because
same age.
yeah, I mean, maybe it's 50. There's something about that where you finally are like, I don't care what people think about me. That's some of it too. You just are like,
Yeah.
it's time for me to go. And so I
Yeah.
love that, having the courage and the confidence in yourself, because nobody will give it to you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to give you permission. And they're probably, they're trying to fight their way to the top as well. So like, you know, hold hands, be nice, bring your soul, and have confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
What routines do you follow every day? What does it look like to get up and Jardina and start the day? What do you do?
I have to tell you, I'm not a very routine type person.
Okay.
I don't like routine.
Yeah.
So it's funny because my best friend loves routines. So we always
Uh-huh.
laugh because she likes it to be like, I get coffee, I have my fruit, I go for a run, I read my paper, and I'm like, yeah, sometimes I work out and sometimes I have eggs and sometimes I don't eat. Like I really am very unroutine, but I'll give you like in general, I try to get up, have a little coffee, go for a workout, and then come home, shower, and start working. But
Yeah.
I am definitely a morning person. So I feel like I have
Hmm.
the most energy in the morning. So I try and get most of the hard stuff done before noon when I start to like lose some of that creative energy.
Yeah.
So I do think one thing to think about though is where and when you'll have what types of energy.
Tell me more
So
about that.
yeah, so like I said, I have more creative energy and focused energy in the morning. So I try to, if I'm going to collaborate, it's better in the afternoon, right? I'd rather have my alone focused time to get stuff done that I have to think about in the morning.
Hmm.
It'd
Yeah.
be better if I didn't work out in the morning and waste that time, but that just is just not how it plays out. But I think, knowing like when does your energy drop and what can you do during that time and how can you regenerate? I mean, if you have to take a nap, you have to take a nap,
Yeah,
right?
you know what? I do that too. I work with a client, but if I'm low energy in the afternoon, I'll lay down for 20, 30 minutes and I just make it up. That's the beautiful thing about flexible work and this workspace that we're creating, right? Let's work the
Yeah.
way that works best for our bodies so we can be most productive instead of so structured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm way better after a nap. And Winston Churchill would take his 4 o'clock nap. So I feel like
Hmm.
there's no shame in that.
Yeah. And I even Einstein used to take, was it Einstein? Used to take naps with marbles in his hands. And so this was a little bit different, but he would get into REM sleep. This is how he got his most creative. So he would start to get into sleep and he'd hold these marbles. It was an inventor. It might have been Thomas Edison. I'll follow up, but he'd hold the marbles in his hands. And then when they would drop, it would wake him up because that would signal him he was in like that REM type sleep where you're really
Yeah.
creative. And so that's when he would wake up and he would jot down all of the things that he was thinking.
Oh, that's
So
great. I have to go get
yeah,
some marbles.
I know. See if so it's kind of getting in that really deep trance but not going completely to sleep, restful and creative. So
Wow. I love that
yeah,
tip. It's a good
yeah.
one.
And I do my best work in the morning too. I know I texted you this morning at 4 o'clock because I couldn't sleep. That was not a creative moment, but I wake up at 3 o'clock and often I'll work from 3 to 5 and then I'll lay down, I'll take a nap and I'll get up for work in the morning. And I get the most done between 3 and 5. Nobody's here. I don't feel like I'm obligated to run people around, or be anywhere. It's just quiet time. Very good.
So I love that. And for a while, not lately, but for a while, I was getting up at 3. And there's a theory, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I love it, from Wayne Dyer, who said if you are getting up at the same time every night, something's wanting to emerge. So
Ah,
write, just
yeah,
write or like find an outlet because you don't know what you have to like figure out what that thing is.
yeah.
So I
I
did that when I was
definitely
writing the book. I
do
was
that.
up at 4 because it
Really?
wanted to emerge. Yeah.
Hmm. I think that's what's been happening for me recently. Like since we left our leadership program, we all had a project to do over 3 months. So that kind of was the catalyst. And then the fourth month, a lot of us extended that to the rest of our practice and have really been working to build our businesses. And I've just felt this fire inside. And so I've been trying to just harness that and let it go and flow. And I journal and it's incredible the amount of work I've gotten done in the last month. So yeah, there's
Great.
something when it's trying to come out, you can't hold it in.
Yeah.
I want to jump into what your genius is and this notion of souls at work. And for you guys, ladies, I hope you don't mind me saying guys, it's just a thing.
I say it. I
So,
say it. It's hard to give up the
it's hard
guys.
to get up. I
Yeah.
give up, yeah. But when we met, Jardena, we were in New York for a conference. I mean, we'd met virtually, but when we really got to know each other, we sat down for dinner. And the topic of conversation for the audience was around women in Agile. And I actually had a problem with that. I wouldn't go to the meetings. I mean, I'm still not a card carrying member, but I certainly should be at this point. But when we were there, I said, I've been in this field for longer than most men had been in Agile. And don't worry about what that is. It's not really relevant. It was just the notion of calling out women aside from other people in different professions. So I've been in Agile for longer than most of the men, in the space had been. And I'm like, I don't need you to call me out or put me in some special category. And Jardena is a very courageous woman. She just doesn't back down for much. And she's like, oh, really? Let's talk about that. Jardena, share your view of that notion. Why is it so important for us to elevate women? And obviously I am fierce, so I kind of want to elevate women. But
Yeah.
you had a major part in me really diving into this. So I'd love for you to share kind of what your view was or
Well,
is.
first, let me just share that I had your same view. It wasn't that, I wasn't always pro women, elevate women, the same
Yeah.
exact way, because I felt like I really enjoy working with men. Like they were much easier to work with. They were very straightforward. I didn't always enjoy working with women. Now, as I started to move up the ladder, I
Mm-hmm.
found that more powerful women were different than the less powerful.
Yes.
And it changed for me because a friend of mine, Sally Parker, said to me, I was like, I don't like, I don't like working with women. And she
Mhm.
said, I don't think it's the women that you don't like. I think it's their response to oppression that's bothering you.
Oh,
And I was like, that changed everything for me
that's meaty.
because it
Yeah.
was like not everybody responds to oppression in a healthy way. Like sometimes it
Hmm.
comes out in an unhealthy behavior. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that complaining or being whiny or,
Yeah.
that powerlessness. Actually, one of my biggest triggers is powerlessness.
Yes.
So when people feel like they don't have power, that annoys me.
Hmm.
Right.
I
But
know
it's
you
not
get to, it's like what you said is like you get to take your own power. And I know that I've probably been discriminated against because I'm a woman, discriminated against because I'm mixed race. I've never noticed that. And I choose not. It's not that I'm oblivious. I just don't notice it. You're
right.
not going to hold me back. And I think you're the same way. But a
Right.
lot of women aren't, a lot of women don't feel that power. Tell me
Yeah.
more about that.
Well, what I started to notice when my attention was drawn to that thank you to Sally
Hmm.
is sure, I I can compete with men, but you do have to work twice as hard. It's like a
Hmm.
lot of diverse groups, right? It's not just women.
Yeah.
It's like that twice as hard and twice as good kind of thing.
Right.
So, sure, I was able to compete, but is that really fair? And are women who are so women who are equal to men can't compete, but women who are better than men can compete,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, and I started to notice like, yeah, it is like always a struggle for me to interject in a conversation. And am I interrupted more? Yes. Do I bully my way through it? Also, yes. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I started to notice that, wow, that really does happen. And then the mansplaining, it's funny. I just heard a podcast about with Rebecca Solnit, who wrote the book Men Explain Things to Me. And
Oh,
they have all of these stories about like she wrote a book and the guy was like trying to teach her about the book that she wrote, not
yeah.
realizing that she's the author.
Hello.
Yeah. And there were like there was like a whole group of women doctors on planes when
Uh-huh.
someone gets sick on the airplane and they say I'm a doctor and everyone ignores them.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Well, you
I'm
know
like, that's a
what?
thing.
It is a thing. And here's the other thing about how this stuff plays out. I'm not a natural blonde. It was kind of a social experiment when I dyed my hair blonde and I was still consulting. So I was traveling every week.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how many people offered to help me with my bags once I went blonde versus before?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And also I was sitting at one of the engagements that we had a room through, there were 13 guys around this table. We had just done agility health. This is a platform where I need to explain some technical things. We were actually doing DevOps. So technical group of guys talking, how are you working? We do this assessment and I'm now coming in and giving them advice on what they need to do. Do you know it took me 45 minutes and a lot of like card playing and name dropping before they would actually listen to what I had to say. Now I'd been doing this work at that point for about 14 years, kind of knew what, I was speaking the lingo, but it literally took me. And that was when I was blonde. When I was dark headed, I never had that issue sitting at a table and it was very stark. Great people, it wasn't that they were doing, it wasn't they were doing it maliciously. It was
Sure.
just a really big observation about hair color and being a woman and the stereotypes that exist. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
now I have the hair because it stands out and people are like, oh my gosh, look at the hair. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to change it. I kind of want to go dark again.
Oh, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's weird. So anyway, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You're trying to stand toe to toe with the men at work. So how do you transition into being more soulful out of that need to be masculine and always be I mean, we had to show up masculine. I remember going on trips with my boss and thinking I had to drink the same amount that the guys are drinking just so I could stay in the conversation. Because I knew if I went to the hotel too early, I might miss out on an opportunity. So,
Oh, I
right.
will tell you, I'm saying publicly now, I think I may have said this publicly before, but how embarrassingly many strip clubs I've been to because I found out that deals were being made.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I guess I'm
Gotta
taking
go.
myself to the strip club. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that that would happen nowadays. Hopefully not. I don't know. But, we had to do what we had to do. And I think and this was another thing too, a lot of women, myself included, became more masculine than the men, right? So we
Hmm.
became like the toxic masculine,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
So
definitely that one.
yeah,
I'm
where we would be tougher than like the men have the luxury to be nice when they feel like it. And
Mhm.
I just didn't have that luxury. So I was super tough
Yeah.
because you could
Yeah.
never let your guard down.
You couldn't. When I moved into leadership, and I love my boss, like he never discriminated in pay. Like I felt I was always elevated in his eyes, but he was uncomfortable being the bad guy. So there were three of us on this leadership team, all very good friends. But after leaving that space, the other girl, she and I are best friends. We talk about this all the time. Like we recognized he actually exploited us in the fact that he was the guy that gave all the hugs. So all of the department loved him. She
Yeah.
was very much like you, like soulful and yoga and all of this. Guess what role I got to play?
But
I was the toxic masculine. And
yeah.
I had been rewarded. I got the job because I asked hard questions, I challenged people, and then they spent 13 years coaching that out of me. And so I had all this stuff like, why am I not good enough? Like, you hired me to do this and you reward me to do this, but now you're telling me I can't. And just watching how the response in the relationships at work, like both of them had great relationships. Nobody wanted to be around me. I wouldn't blame them. And it wasn't until I left that job and I went to my next position and I got completely different feedback. You're the best leader I've ever had. It was because I couldn't change in that system.
Yeah.
I was an actor, right? We're all actors. And so my role was set. It was being typecast basically. And you couldn't leave that.
Well, I love that you're saying that because, so first of all, it's funny that you say that I'm all soulful in yoga because maybe you'll get comments on this when we post it of people that worked with me back
Sure.
when I wasn't like that. And they'll
Yeah.
go, her? Really?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. That was one of the reasons I love being a consultant is because I do reinvent myself every single time, or at
Yeah.
least incrementally.
Yeah.
So you can be somebody, you can level up every time you move jobs, but it is hard in the same place once you're in the system
Hmm.
to change your perception.
Yeah.
So, reinventing yourself over and over and over again, you know, I I don't know if like 100% reinventing, but thinking
Just
about who you're
continual
choosing to
improvement.
be
Yeah.
is who
Are
are
you
you
getting the
choosing?
results you want?
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't let other people tell you who you are. Like you can choose who you want to be in each situation.
Yeah.
But
That
that's worked
is,
well for me.
and that, yeah, maybe we just stay consultants and you get to change. And, the other thing that I learned out of that too is that good people often behave poorly.
Yeah.
So being mindful of the system and, having curiosity, well, why are they reacting this way and what's causing that? I think that goes into some of the work that you do as far as cultivating, soulful enterprises. What do you think the key for a leader to bring that soul into a business? Like, where would I start if I wanted to shift what I'm seeing in this potentially male dominated world? It's kind of changing, gradually, but when I want to see those shifts and create this soulful workplace, what do you start with folks?
So the first thing I'll say is when I think about soulfulness and, being that, we say like soft skills or you
Mhm.
saying that I'm a soulful person, um, I always want to hook that onto something that's tangible or financial results, or, and that is the yin and the yang. That is the masculine and the feminine. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not that we're going to go so far to the feminine side that we've left the masculine empty. We still need
Yes.
that. So I always want to hook it together, because
Yeah.
there's nothing, a lot of organizations you'll see, it's like there's the financial results over here, and then we have this soulful team building over here. Not different things. These two things need to be connected at all points.
Yeah.
Um, but what I would say in terms of the starting point, your question is, and I just wrote an article for Business Agility, so I can actually put a link to that for you,
Okay.
is the look for where the pain is. There's
Yes.
always pain. Because
Yeah.
if you try to start layering on some kind of framework or soulfulness or team building on top of a festering wound, it
Mm-hmm.
is not going to heal.
Yes.
So, what I say is leaders are organizational healers.
Mm-hmm.
And it, again, it doesn't have to be all spiritual, but you have to be sitting squarely in the face of that pain, willing
Mm-hmm.
to look it in the eye, and even if you don't know how to solve it. That's the
Yeah.
problem, is we say, well, I don't know how to solve that, that's always been a problem, so let's just do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to really look it squarely in the eye,
Yeah.
or else it's not
Yeah.
going away.
Our organizations these days have changed. It used to be very mechanistic and,
Mhm.
just let's just get this done. And this beautiful generation, I think that we find, has changed so much of the expectation of what work should be and what it should mean. And I think, now it's really more that living organism, and it needs to be cared and fed and, sometimes pruned a little bit. And we have to find, be willing to look at the things. It's the people. It's not any practice that you can put in place. You really have to get intimate with people.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so key.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with organizations as living systems. And I think the key there is they were always living systems. We were just
Yeah,
treating them like machines.
like
And then everything,
machines.
things would go wrong and we'd be like, oh my gosh, why did that go wrong? Oh, because
Yeah,
it's a living system and we treated it like a machine.
exactly.
So nothing has actually changed in the system. We're just looking at it more realistically.
Exactly. I love all this. I want to be mindful of your time this morning, Jardina, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your goodness. I want to encourage you guys, if you are looking for a leader to follow, whether it's your own business or perhaps you're in corporate America and you want to see change, number one, go get her book. I will post a link to this so you guys can get it. Also, I'll leave a link for her website. You can reach her at Rosetta, ROSETTA, Agile, AGILE.com, or Jardena London. We'll put that in the chat as well as soon as we post this. Any final thoughts for these ladies as far as, getting started and, just taking that next step in business?
I think that's exactly it, Nicole. Is just take that next step and
Yeah,
don't be afraid. Because
absolutely.
the world wants what you have.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
and that's the bottom line.
Beautiful. Hey, I want to, Julie, you were so kind to get on the Zoom. Do you want to ask any questions real quick of Jardina before we let her go into the day, the long weekend we have?
I don't have any specific questions right now. I've really appreciated the conversation. Some of the things, some of my takeaways about what we decide what our value is and what we value about ourselves and the way that we want to share it, I think is a really important, it's an important food for thought. Also, the idea of allowing time and space for the emergence of what is within that we want to share with the world, and I can really resonate with that. I can even resonate with the idea of waking up at the same time during the night, and so that was a good. I've used meditations and that kind of thing to settle myself back, but maybe that's not the most productive way to use that time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then one concept that we really talk about a lot in my work, which is in early childhood, working with early childhood programs, is, and in the context of my work, it's about children's behavior in the classroom, very young children, but it really applies to everybody. And you talked about it, which was behavior is communication. So
Mm,
when you were talking about the way that women are treated differently in the workplace than men are, and the way the blonde hair thing and all of that is, behaviors that are they're telling you something and you were listening to the communication, but a lot of people miss that. And so I
mhm.
think that's something to call out too, how important it is to really see people's behavior as a way of communicating. And so that when it's challenging, it's not so much about making it stop as it is making it understood and then addressing whatever the communication is or the need is that is being expressed.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
yeah.
also the idea of the balance between the yin and the yang, the feminine side as well as the masculine side, and that
Mhm.
and the importance really of both and bringing that together. I think that we have the opportunity to do that in a unique way, which is really kind of wonderful.
Yeah. With that piece too, it's so important that we create the environment for both to exist in our teams. And the other thing that I've noticed, there are men who definitely want to express a more feminine side, not feminine, but not female, but feminine, right?
Yep.
The feminine characteristics. And they struggle to do that because there's judgment around that. I had my other close friend that was an agile coach with me. He is very much in that space and has operated there for years. And I know for a fact that it has held his career back.
Yeah.
And but he chooses not to sacrifice that because it's an important thing. And I think, as leaders, female leaders too, we have the opportunity to create the space for everyone to be able to show up how they, the genius that they bring, both masculine and feminine. So
Well, I think it might be worth thinking about how to identify it differently than masculine and feminine, because that's where the judgment is.
yes.
And the feminine is a lesser in some views. So maybe there's another way to refer to that makes it clearer that it's important, two important pieces of a balanced system.
So
Or we
Julie, I
teach
would
people.
love to hear, I have put a lot of thought into alternative words. So yin and yang is one, but everyone knows that that's masculine, feminine. So it's not such a secret. But I would love other words for that because they're like Nicole was saying, I've done workshops with folks on, there's really like 4 quadrants of the masculine and feminine. And men say, like, we say, like, which quadrants do you bring to work? And it's like, we could never bring those feminine ones. I wish they had a different name. So I would love it if anyone has new names, new words for those that aren't immediately applicable back to feminine, masculine.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put that out there.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, it is time to draw this to a close. Jardena, I would invite you to participate in our I Am Fierce community. You guys reach out to Jardena on her sites. We're really growing this as a space to, just to elevate women. And my vision is that we'll someday have a live summit, and maybe we can convince Jardena to come and speak for us.
I would
At
love
some
that.
point. Yeah. Yeah. All right, ladies, thank you so much for being here. I am going to stop this recording and we'll say goodbye to all of our